Ugh, here we go again. So Alien Covenant has come out, and it is better than Prometheus, or as bad as Prometheus, or better or worse depending on what you want. The opinion seems to be mixed on this thing, but what really does seems to be pretty much the consensus is they went back to the Alien films and did less of Prometheus. And once I realized that they were doing that, and at this point the reviews have confirmed that that is pretty much what they did, I lost absolutely any and all interest in this thing, because we need to stop making Alien movies. Alien, this franchise, was brilliant precisely twice. And it was brilliant those two times for pretty specific reasons. The first one, it was horror in space at a level of production value and atmosphere and attention to detail that had just never been done. The inventiveness of the creature itself and its life cycle and the atmosphere of that ship, it was unlike anything else before, and it still holds up. A lot of those effects, certainly the tension, the performances, the great rapport between the characters, all just across the board. Solid movie. Aliens works as well because it scaled it up, and it also shifted genres. It is a horror-tinged war movie. Thematically, it's got more in common with something like Saving Private Ryan or Platoon than it does with the first Alien. But it takes all of that aesthetic and all that visual richness that first one had and just scaled the whole thing bigger. And that worked that one time, because really there wasn't too many ways to go bigger than Aliens went. And so every film that they've made since then has been trying to recapture one of those two things. They are either trying to recapture the claustrophobia of Alien, or they are trying to recapture the splendor of Aliens in one way or another. And neither of those things work, because it just becomes a retread. And the reason Aliens is one of the best sequels, I mean, regardless of whether you like Alien or Aliens better, in terms of ways to follow up, it's one of the best sequels ever made because of the way it was able to expand. But everything since then, it's just rehashing. Alien 3 tried to go back to that first one, tried to go claustrophobic again. There are moments it doesn't work. Alien Resurrection, who even knows what they were trying to do with that one. They did try and go big. There were some interesting ideas, but I don't think that one even knew what it wanted to be. Alien vs. Predator is fun, but it's disposable. Prometheus had the right idea, which was to explore bigger and different ideas within that world, not necessarily focused completely around the xenomorph itself. Unfortunately, it botched the execution of that, I feel, correct approach. And now we've got Alien Covenant, which is it's just Alien again. And that, there's no way that will ever have the impact and the weight that it had originally, because now what it is now is it's just gone into the standard slasher sequel cycle, which is same situation, same creature, just a new set of cannon fodder over and over again. And that's just, that is diminishing returns at best. And each new entry just keeps devaluing this monster, which I will stand by as the greatest cinematic creature ever put on film. And it just gets devalued with each and every single entry. Now, does this mean that there's no life left in this franchise? No, but I don't think there's more life in it left on film, because fans of this franchise might point to some other mediums at this point. They might point to the comic books, which gave us Colonial Marines, which was able to, keep the feel of Aliens going, or the Alien versus Predator, comic books. Those were able to do some interesting things in a way that the movie just chose not to do. Or a recent example, Alien Isolation, a game that a lot of fans really loved. Here's the thing though, those didn't feel repetitive and redundant because they were taking things that we had admittedly seen in film and translating them to another medium in ways that took advantage of what that medium did. Really, especially with Alien Isolation, because if that had been another film, it would have been an Alien retread. I mean, top to bottom. But from an interactive standpoint and being able to actually play that and feel ourselves exploring that ship and feeling the dread of that alien, it hadn't been done to that level in an interactive space before with this property. So the shift in the medium was enough to make it feel fresh again. But the story itself, had it been a film, I think we all would have turned our noses up on that. And that is what I'm saying. There's nothing of value left in this franchise on film. Not with what they're doing at this point. The only thing that could have done something would have been Prometheus, because it was going for something bigger. It was expanding outwards. It was moving beyond the xenomorphs themselves, and it was going out into the greater world to find out what else was out there. But now Alien Covenant just shows, as a reaction to the mixed reception to Prometheus, and again, Prometheus has a lot of problems, and I acknowledge all of that, but because fans were like, we wanted the xenomorph, and you know what, I'm sorry, but sometimes fans, we're stupid, and we know what we want, but what we want isn't good for us. We're like a kid eating an entire pint of ice cream. We're gonna feel sick at the end of all this. We're getting what we want, but it's not a good idea. And so when we all went, we wanted the xenomorph, they have brought the franchise back to that, but what more is there to get out of the xenomorph? And especially at this point that we're in prequel territory and we're just finding out more about its origins, I don't want to know about its origin. I should never know where this thing came from and why it exists. Because you know when it was at its scariest was that first film. And not just because it was new and surprising, but because as far as that film was concerned, this is just the kind of shit that is out there when we go into space. You go into space, this is the kind of stuff you're going to run into. We as a race are not prepared for what is out there. That is the takeaway of the first Alien, and it gets lost every time that we get this more and more detail, more and more info on how these things work, and especially now that we're delving into where did they come from, what created them. It's an animal. It evolved into this crazy, scary thing that is unlike anything we've seen, but that's what's out there. We should be terrified at the idea of these characters going out in space, and God, if this is out there, what else might be out there? As far as this franchise is concerned at this point, pretty much nothing, because we keep coming back to the xenomorphs over and over and over and over again. And look, like I said, this is a brilliant monster. It is iconic, and it will always be one of the best monsters. But there's no life left in this. And Ridley Scott is talking about doing more prequels. He keeps yo-yoing on how many he's saying he's going to do. He needs all of this. Stop. I mean, we'll see what this Predator reboot has left in the tank, and then that's not me saying that more Alien versus Predator stuff happens, but look, put this franchise to bed. Like I said, Prometheus on premise had some potential. It squandered it. Leave it alone. Let it die. Explore all the other venues and all the other mediums there are out there to keep the franchise chugging along, but stop with the movies. There's nothing left. And just remember, in space, no one can hear you scream, but on the internet, everyone can hear you scream about geeky stuff that you just rant and ramble about, or maybe it's just me. So those are my thoughts on the current state of Alien as a franchise, which it shouldn't be anymore. What are your thoughts on all this? Whatever they are, drop something down in the comments. Let's talk about it. Don't forget to like, subscribe, check me out on Twitter at Council of Geeks, give a listen to the Council of Geeks podcast, and or the Punch Like a Girl podcast, both available on iTunes and Stitcher. And until next time, this council is adjourned.